So, Tom, much to my chagrin, I understand we're going to be starting with a Pierre Poilievre clip today. So, this is Pierre Poilievre calling out Justin Trudeau because we have now apparently learned that that gentleman who came here to speak in the parliament, who turned out to be a Nazi, the Ukrainian, that the prime minister originally said he knew nothing about and called actually for the resignation, I think, of the Speaker of the House at the time. Turns out he may have known something, in fact, and this is what Pierre Poilievre had to say today.
Well, we now learn that Justin Trudeau was lying again. He told us that bringing the former Nazi to the Ukrainian president's visit was all the Speaker's fault. It had nothing to do with him. His office didn't even know about it, he claimed. Well, now we know that that was exactly false.
Was it exactly false, Tom, from what we know?
Well, it doesn't look good for Mr. Trudeau. Let's start with that. But I do think that, as usual, Pierre Poilievre is exaggerating quite a bit. So let's look at the facts. Mr. Hunka was indeed the guest exclusively of the Speaker of the House of Commons. There is no evidence whatsoever that Mr. Rota consulted with anybody in or around Mr. Trudeau. He has himself said it was his decision and his decision alone. What they have now, the smoking gun, the thing that Poilievre figures he's got, is an invitation that went out to a list of people that included Mr. Hunka to attend an event in Toronto that he never attended. So this was a list put together apparently by the Canadian-Ukrainian Congress of senior people from that community who Trudeau might want to invite. And maybe there should have been a little bit of checking there, but if they were given a very long list of people who might be attending an evening, I think it's a bit short shrift for Poilievre to say that it's proof positive that Trudeau was lying about the fact that his office had nothing to do with inviting this guy into the House of Commons. So it's pure Poilievre. He'll start with a kernel of truth, some information that the original version wasn't there. They tried the same thing on Trudeau with his Christmas holiday down in Jamaica, and it didn't matter that they were told by everybody, including everybody who had sent in the papers to get clearance from the Ethics Commissioner's office. It doesn't matter. This is just mudslinging, and Poilievre's actually extraordinarily effective at it. Mm-hmm. And if you want to convince yourself of that, all you have to do is watch question period tomorrow, because Wednesdays is usually the day that Trudeau shows up for the full question period. And Trudeau sputters and stutters and hems and haws and forgets his lines. He's very good on his feet, Trudeau. Let's give him that. He's an extraordinarily good communicator. But he completely loses it when he's being prosecuted by Pierre Poilievre, and Pierre Poilievre knows it and just keeps going strong.
And speaking of which, so he's in town today, and he held a press conference at the in the old port in front of the whole shipping area, and he's standing behind a placard that says "Arrêtons les crimes," so stop the crime. Arrêtons les vols d'auto. We have to stop car theft, and basically goes on to just blame Trudeau and say it's 100%.
I think that's what's going to, Natasha. I honestly believe that's what's going to start to grate on a lot of people. We like our politics robust, but we don't like it American style. And one of the things I will tell you about Poilievre is there's almost nothing original that comes out of him. They have such deep pockets. They are sitting on such an incomparable pile of cash in the Conservative Party that they're constantly doing the type of thing that the Liberals used to do to us, because they had more money than we had in the NDP at the time. The Liberals were able to do focus groups and more polling, and they had sort of gray areas where they were able to get access to polling information that we just didn't have. With regard to that type of technique, access to deep data, the Conservatives are in a league of their own. So when Poilievre started staking out turf that was anti-Ukraine, right? Saying, we shouldn't sign this trade deal with Ukraine. He invented some cock and bull story about, there's something in there on the carbon tax. That was complete malarkey. It's just not true. But he was pushing it forward as his rationalization for not signing it. But what did we see in the Angus Reid polling today? We saw that more and more Canadians think that, maybe we're giving a little bit too much to Ukraine. Trudeau is all in on Ukraine. He still has the vast majority of Canadians with him. But Canadians who feel reticent, the vast majority of those are Conservatives. So Poilievre knows always who he's talking to and what he's saying. On the car theft issue, it's something that captures the imagination that allows them to go really hard on some things that are, again, there's a kernel of truth to it. The Liberals liberalize the ability to get, to let go, waiting for your trial. They have cases. The Conservatives will put them up time and again, real cases of people who have been caught over and over and over again and released. They call it jokingly in reference to that type of fishing catch and release. But the average Canadian looking at this says, hey, we're a bunch of suckers here in Canada. And really, the bad people who are car thieves, who are often organized in groups and often, they know each other from different communities, they realize that here in Canada, nothing happens to you when you get caught. You go into the court, the judge might raise his shoulders. If you've been really bad, you might get 30 days. But there is a validity to the point that Poilievre is hammering over and over again. Does his bit about having 24 X-ray machines to look at no, it's complete and utter. It doesn't make any sense. It would gum up the port. It wouldn't work. The real way to do it is to answer when you use AirTags and keep going after it and put resources on the road. But in Poilievre's favor today, we had the case of a police officer being upended by some car thieves, and we had clear images, a video of somebody in the parking lot of a car dealership as people just sped away with the car. So that just fed right into Poilievre's narrative. And again, he has deep polling on this. He knows it's a sensitive issue, and he's going to keep hammering away.
All right, let me move on. We talked about this earlier on. I don't think we thought we'd have a chance here, but I want real quick, if you can, we have a new Léger poll out today that shows the PQ gained a point, the CAQ remained where they were. So in other words, more bad news for François Legault. What do you make of that?
Well, it is more bad news for François Legault, and the Liberals are at 7% with Francophone voters, which is pretty close to zero. But I don't consider that these numbers are anything definitive. The Liberals are, it's like being in a horse race and one of the horses has a broken leg. The Liberals don't have a leader, so it's pointless to say, oh, this is the shape of things to come. The Parti Québécois has a very energetic young leader. Legault is tired. He makes stuff up constantly. It's unbelievable to watch him go. He just makes stuff up, and it takes him like 5 seconds to come up with something. Oh, I'll get rid of party financing in Quebec. You'll do what? Yeah, it'll all be government financing. Really, how do new parties get started? And by the way, isn't it favorable to your party because you had the most votes last time around? So he was going after the Parti Québécois and Quebec Solidaire, and it just doesn't work. And it began when he got beaten up in Quebec City in that famous by-election in October in Jean Talon riding, and he's never recovered from it. But his tendency to just abruptly make stuff up and then change it's horrible. He went along, he probably guided Pascal Derry's bird-brain bureaucracies, the numbers that they put up with regard to tuition for the English universities were completely wrong. It was completely fake news. We have to do this. And by the way, $17,000, that's the tuition that they would pay at the U of T or at University of British Columbia. Yeah, right. The tuition there is $6,000. So we're still way above that. But what I see as hopeful is that yesterday, Legault sat down with Deep Saney, the principal / president of McGill. I much preferred the old word. I just found it much better for the institution. They sat down with him, and they're talking. So, there were no breakthroughs yet, but it's obvious that Legault is starting to understand that at 18%, because, by the way, that's the figure that stayed with me the most from that whole polling effort. 18% of Quebecers think that François Legault is the best person to be premier. That's less than 1 in 5.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am told on good authority to pick up the Journal de Montréal tomorrow to see the rest of this poll, because apparently nobody in the Liberal Party is going to be laughing at Denis Coderre anymore. Okay,
so speaking of which, I wanted to make sure we squeeze this in. I didn't know that there was some sort of rivalry between these two former mayors, but you tell us. I want your take on it. Former Quebec City Mayor Régis Labaume saying Coderre, it's sad, really, that he doesn't know how to have a life outside of politics. What do you make of this, Tom?
I found it a bit odd. I really get a kick out of Régis Labaume. Yeah. He's a refreshing personality. He writes super well. His columns in La Presse are great. And he's a smart guy with tons of experience and a good sense of humor. But, basically he's saying that, Coderre, it doesn't make any sense for him to be running for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. But I think that he might be surprised when he sees the polls tomorrow, because nobody gave me the number, because they're very good at holding on to some information, because that'll make people pick up the paper tomorrow, as I just suggested they might want to do. But apparently Coderre does very well in this poll. Now, is that just name recognition? Would it mean that he would actually have a chance at the leadership? What would happen if a 5-star political player like François-Philippe Champagne decided to take a run at the Quebec Liberal leadership? I think that Coderre would have to bow out gracefully, because he wouldn't have the slightest chance.
I don't know. This seems very strange. And it seems like almost Regis LeBaume came out as a friend. Here's, Denis, what I'm telling you. This is really not
exactly.
good. I've been doing this as long as you have. You got to give it up. And then here you go with a poll that's going to show people are paying attention. It's a great story.
But I think Coderre can't give it up. It's
that's just
yeah,
it.
It's in his blood.
Yeah.
It's who he is.
Tom, thank you.